So stare a pause for nowhere. I drop the icon, my little.
Hey Internet, thanks again for joining us on Course for Nowhere. I'm your host, the Media Nomad. With me as always is the delightful Ivy.
Hello, everyone.
And I guess we can call him official other co-host now, DJ Armacorth.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for
So-
having me.
I think we can call you legit now. You've done like 7 episodes with us.
Yeah, I think thereabouts or
There
something
you
like
go.
that.
I think we can say your probation's over now.
Okay. Well, I mean, when you look at a band like Rush and they haven't even put Neil Peart off of probation, you have to wonder. Some places take it a little too far.
That's true. More legit than me, though, since I've crapped out on a couple lately.
Nah, it's cool.
Well, that's
I think
okay.
that's part of what works about having 3 hosts is that if one person drops out, someone else can just kind of swoop in. Like, we can still work with 2. So that way, if one person can't make it, we can still show up and do something as opposed to when it's just 2. And then it's just one guy just stuck here by themselves going, well, sure is lonely.
Yeah, really.
I've
I would
gotten-
love to get a 4th also.
Maybe I feel like 3 is a pretty good balance. I don't know how Goro does it with just 1, because he's, since Cancer Man left, he's been doing a lot of shows by himself, and I have no idea how he does it, because I cannot carry a show by myself.
No, you'd have to, just prepare a speech. I mean, part of what's good is being able to bounce ideas off of each other and respond to banter and whatnot.
Right, because then you just
Yes.
have, like, audio essays, which I love those. That's most of my YouTube viewing. But it is, like, that's work, and there's already, like, 3+ hours of post-processing per episode. Like, you motherfuckers just have to show up. I'm the one sitting down with all of the clips and putting the whole thing together.
Yeah.
Which I have mad respect for after making all the gaming videos, because I'll sit down for 10 hours and work on one video that ends up being 4 minutes and go, wow, where did the time go? And then I put it out and I'm not even satisfied with my own work.
Yeah.
No, well, I remember back when I was in undergrad and I was doing video documentary work, and yeah, I could spend, like, 10, 12 hours on a single 5-minute clip, because, I'd go out, and that's just post-processing. That's let alone, like, going out, shooting, recording, doing stills, and just getting everything together, and then, fuck, even just, like, the rendering is a huge chunk of time.
Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
you wonder how the big YouTube stars, feel about the workload. Some of them have talked about it a bit, but yeah, some of them really struggle to keep things coming out consistently. And
Yeah.
Well, it's a
And
full-time job
I
for a lot
think
of them.
it is a full-time job. Yeah, absolutely. And then there's a lot of love there too. That's why I like YouTube so much. And it's unfortunate to see the advertisers pulling out of there simply because of media jumping on one guy and then making it look like YouTube is going to shit because they want all the advertisers to come back to their parent company NBC. So it's just this whole amalgamate of, oh man, that's a bummer to see all these people who put so much work into their creative content to be out of a job practically.
That's why I like Patreon, because it's a separate entity, and that they're going to keep getting money no matter where the advertising revenue goes. So as long as they can keep their content up and they have a platform for that content, they're going to be able to keep making ends meet. So I can imagine even if, YouTube completely tanks and they have to jump over to something like Vimeo or Dailymotion, some other site like that, then
Or YouPorn.
or YouPorn, whichever. If you're Jim Sterling,
Yeah, or if you're Funhouse.
or if you're Funhouse. I need to watch Funhouse. I still have yet to dig into Funhouse.
Oh, Funhouse is
I
the...
don't know what that is.
All right, so there's several subsidiaries of Rooster Teeth, and you know who Rooster Teeth is, right?
Yeah.
Funhouse is one of them, and they're probably the most prolific in comedy out of all of them. Cow Chop is another one that does like really off the wall crazy videos. Funhouse is more like sketch comedy or just off the cuff improv, which is something I really like. And they do a series called Demo Disc where they play old PC demos. They do a series, and like at the end of the videos, they look at Rule 34 porn. That cracks me up, and just stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun because they can do a lot of fun stuff with that, and I really love RVB and Rooster Teeth. But you know what's not fun even a little bit
Babadooks.
is the Babadook. Are you ready for your soul to die just a little bit? Because that's today's movie.
Yeah, actually, good segue into it. I found the movie. Usually, I find a lot of what we watch on this series kind of subpar, and this movie, was a lot better than I expected it to be. When I saw that it was a smaller sort of independent film company movie, I got excited right off the bat. And if the story seemed a little lacking to me, I'd like to expand on that more with you guys. But the editing where the cuts between camera shots and angles was a little fast for me, but where it made up in that aspect was the sort of mentality of it for me, as well as the makeup and the costume design.
So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean the first time I watched it, it was just something I randomly found on Netflix, and I thought, oh, this looks like a pretty good horror movie, and I put it on, and I thought, yeah, it seemed. I mean, it to me, it seemed like pretty good. It's kind of catered to a lot of the things that I like in supernatural horror, and and the ending was a bit different than what I'm used to, which is what I really liked about it. And so, um, on those merits, I would recommend it. And then later, um, kind of seeing it pop up in my feed on Facebook and started reading about it over the internet and how um, a lot of the elements of the story are actually about mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's strange that the first time I didn't really pick up on that,
Oh no.
especially because I've suffered from mental illness my whole adult life. You know, you'd think that if anybody was going to catch those things, it would be me. But rewatching it, I know why I didn't pick up on that the first time. And when we're not, when we aren't going to be worrying about spoilers for the rest of the show, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But for the non-spoilery version, bear in mind it does have to do with mental illness, and it's good, I think, to watch the movie with that frame of, with that information in mind.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I thought it did a very good job at it. I picked up on that right away, and it dealt a lot with loneliness and it dealt a lot with depression, and I think it even touched on suicide a bit. It was really introspective.
Yeah, so that's going to be three really strong recommends, and I might actually have the strongest recommend because I very rarely will pick a favorite anything because I'm super non-committal when it comes to that sort of thing, but I'm definitely going to put Babadook down as one of my all-time favorite movies because it hits so many points and it does such a good job of it. I can't, the only real reason I can say not to go to see this movie is if you may have gone through some sort of abuse growing up, this might be a trigger for you. But other than that, if you love horror, if you love suspense, or if you are even just looking for some sort of insight to someone in your life who might be going through some form of mental illness, or even if you just like good movies, absolutely go check out Babadook. I can't recommend it enough. And I usually worry about overselling movies. I don't feel like I can oversell this movie. Just know what you're getting into is not something that's going to be a lot of jump scares.
No, it did not come across like that anywhere in the movie for me. Um, like I said, from my perspective, I thought the editing was a little wonky. There were points where the camera angles and the camera cuts seemed a little bit too fast paced and didn't give enough time to actually watch the characters' emotions develop on their face, which is something that I like to see in acting. But aside from that, costume design. Can we talk about how great some of the like blood effects, and not to say it's a very gory movie, but some of the dirt and grime just looked.
Uh, just throw up. We'll throw up our spoiler warning. So absolutely go into this movie, and then we're going to be digging into a lot of the symbolism and a lot of the themes of the movies after this point. So go ahead and pause this, and then come back in right about the 10-minute mark after you've watched the movie.
That sounds good.
Yeah. Do we
But
want to do a quick summary?
Yeah, Ivy, I think you'd probably be best at the summary.
Okay. So there's a woman who her husband died in a horrific car crash when she was in labor with her son. And we pick up 7 years later where she's still struggling as a single mother, can't really make ends meet, isn't really connecting with anyone around her in terms of help or coworkers, and her sister is not very helpful. And meanwhile, her son has developed an obsession with monsters and fighting and making weapons and getting in trouble at school. And so she takes him out of school, and then one day she is reading him a bedtime story, and it's a book that she doesn't recognize, and it's about the Babadook. And it's a rhyming book about a monster that you can't get rid of. Um, and the child is sure that this monster is real. She tries to throw the book away, and it shows back up. And eventually, they realize that the Babadook is real, and you know, and it possesses her, and her son helps her not be possessed by it anymore. And in the end, they trap the Babadook in the basement and feed it and keep it, and she goes down and is the one that feeds it and keeps it at bay. And she tells her son at the end, he asks her if she can ever go and see it, and she says, "When you're bigger."
Yeah,
Yeah, actually,
and
I
I think
dug up the actual, because it's a very short little children's book. I actually dug up the whole book if you guys want to read it.
Yeah,
Hmm,
it's very short.
yeah,
If it's in a word or if it's a book, you can't get rid of the Babadook. He wears a hat. He's tall and black. That's how they describe him in his book. A rumbling sound, then three sharp knocks. You better run, or he'll hold you in his locks. Babadook, dook, dook. Your closet opens. No, this is something else. I'm sorry. I pulled up the wrong thing. Hold on.
God bless
Uh,
it, Sam.
I pulled up the wrong thing.
Oh well. But yeah,
Well,
If it's in a word
while
or if it's
you're
in a book, I found two. If it's in a word or if it's in a book, you can't get rid of the Babadook. If you're a really clever one, you'll know just what to see, and you can be friends with a special one, a friend of you and me. His name is Mr. Babadook, and this is his book. A rumbling sound, then three sharp knocks. Babadook, dook, dook. Uh, and then this is what he wears on top. He's funny, don't you think? See him in your room tonight, and you won't sleep a wink. I'll so take off my funny disguise. And once you've seen what's underneath, you're going to wish you were dead. I'll make a wager, yes, I'll make a bet. The more you deny me, the stronger I get. You start to change when I get in, the Babadook growing right under your skin. Oh, come see what's underneath.
creepy.
yeah,
And what's funny is that the actual illustrations for this book, if you look it up, they're actually kind of cute. Like, it almost looks like some sort of Tim Burton or Neil Gaiman-esque children's book.
yeah. It
All right,
doesn't
I'll look it up
seem
right now.
so horrible, at least in the first part of it. And it's pop up. It's a pop
It's
up
all pop-up
book,
book,
and
which is wonderful.
yeah. And it's cool. And the last portion of it only shows up after the mother throws the book away, tears it up and throws it in the garbage, and then it comes back with extra pages added.
And it's
So,
got
but
it's got the mother strangling a dog and her killing her child and slashing her own throat, and there's a little pop-up tab with blood spewing out of the neck.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just over here, like
It actually
literally.
it actually reminded me a sort of a pop-up book I had when I was a kid. I had a horror themed pop-up book. It was a haunted house pop-up book, and it had like you'd pull the tabs to make the ghosts pop up and stuff.
Oh, that's cool. I think you need to have more of that stuff for kids when they're younger because then they become a little bit more desensitized to
Scare
it.
them while
And
they're young.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I have a friend who runs haunted houses for a living right now, and he brings his youngest one to all the haunted houses and shows them the characters and all the designs and everything that goes into it so that he's not scared. When he walks into these things, he knows the people, he says hey to them, and he can appreciate it on a different level.
But yeah,
It's cool.
I was way into horror even as a kid. I mean, my favorite show was Are You Afraid of the Dark? And
Oh, that's a great show.
yeah,
I
I
took
was
a
like,
while to warm up to horror as a kid. It wasn't until I
did
got
you?
older that I got better at digging into it.
Hmm.
but
I can appreciate it
at
as
an,
an art form.
at any rate, the as far as why I didn't catch the mental illness aspect to it in the movie, a big part of it is because the way that I
Yeah.
think, I take things extremely
I think we
literally.
might have lost Ivy there for a
And
second.
there are
But
a number of elements in the
or
story
did we
that
lose
if you were
me?
to try to
Maybe.
take
No,
it
I'm still here. I thought she was
literally
doing a dramatic
as the
pause.
things that are happening to
No, I
her
don't think she is.
are a
As she's
result of
Just
a
drop
scooting
out
on
mental
out.
illness,
entirely?
it doesn't
Yeah.
work because they
That's
do.
unfortunate.
Well, she better
There are
just
a
keep her
number of
thing
scenes
rolling.
where the monster simply
Yes, she's
has
better.
to
And
have
while she's
a
gone,
physical
um,
presence
I
in
guess I could
order
talk about
for
my
it to
experiences
work
with
the
horror.
way
Because growing
the
up, I was a
sun
lot more
interacts and all that sort
in a
of thing.
comedy. I love comedy. I think anything and everything can be made fun of, including myself. But horror takes that, flips it on its edge, and thinks that everything can be taken that same way, but in a horror perspective.
Mhm.
And this movie did that. It took all of the bad and made it terrifying from an inner point of view, and then extrapolated that with imagery. And I thought that was a really nice way to make a good movie. I mean, growing up watching Ghost Hunters, horror has a different vein when it comes down to that, but it was very interesting to see it well done in this film. And you could tell they did it on a budget, but they did it well on a budget.
I know this film has been a passion project for the director. Double check her for the director.
Sorry about
Jennifer.
that.
Jennifer. There we go. Hello, you back?
Yep, I'm back. I don't
Welcome.
know what it just suddenly cut out and ended or my internet suddenly cut out, I guess.
Shit
Nah, it's all
happens.
good. We have no standards here.
Yeah.
We have no audience. It doesn't matter.
One day
So
I
when we
mean, the
get
only
an
reason
audience.
we could just be recording fart noises for all the good it's doing for our non-existent audience. This is entirely for our benefit.
yeah. So what point did I get cut off?
You got
I
cut
think
off
you
right at
said why you
dramatic
didn't pick
pause.
up why you didn't pick up that it was not that it was about mental illness the first time around, even though mental illness is something that you deal with.
And then immediately I thought you were going into a dramatic pause, but it turned out you just disappeared.
That was some calculon level acting, though. If that was what you were doing.
I was like, are we dealing with a Kevin Spacey here? Holy shit.
Wonderful, wonderful. So the reason is partially because of the way that I think and the way that I interact with the world in general is in a very literal way. And I think there are a number of scenes that don't work without the monster being literally real. You would have to do like major rewriting of the story in order for it to work with all of the monster things just being a product of her imagination. Like, dialogue would have to be significantly changed, different actions just wouldn't work, that sort of thing.
Right.
And
And that's where
so
I
you're
think the
you're
movie-
saying the fan theory that the monster was never real at all. It's all in her head, but I don't subscribe to that because it's already about mental illness. So within the world of the film, I believe the monster was meant to be real.
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Yeah. So that's why I didn't pick up on it though, because I guess I expect that kind of theme to be literally real. And actually, through part of the film, the first time I watched it, I thought, oh man, is this going to be another movie where it's all in the person's head and they've made it, because there's been a number of those lately.
Yeah, because it's like it was kind of cool the first time, and then the more it gets pulled and the more people fan theorize about it, then the less interesting it gets. It's like I'm done with fan theories of, oh my god, what if they were dead the whole time?
Well,
or
not
guess
even-
what if this fantasy thing is actually a post-apocalyptic Earth?
Well, not even fan theories. I mean, Shutter Island has that.
Shutter Island, phenomenal movie. One of my personal favorites.
Right.
Thanks for bringing that up.
And there's another one, I can't remember what it's called, but I mean, I could think of at least 5 different horror movies probably released within the last 5 years where the twist at the end is something isn't real because the main character is crazy, you know.
Hmm.
Uh,
Right. But I gotta say real quick, I think Shutter Island did it very well in the fact that at the end they didn't give you a literal, oh, this guy's crazy and he's thinking it all up, because they acted it out, so they made it like viable. And then at the end they give you that great thought that he knows he's relapsing and that's why he decided to go get the lobotomy.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Shutter Island did it better than others, but it it sort of it was the one good one out of a whole, well, one of a
Slew.
couple good ones out of a whole slew of ones where the main character is crazy and that's the twist at the end, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were a great deal of those lately, and it was cool to see a couple of refreshing movies this past year where that didn't happen. Get Out was really great, and that was more of a commentary on racism. And then
Yeah, I wouldn't mind tearing apart Get Out at some points.
Yeah, I would like
Me
to
either.
do that one as well. Actually, as a birthday gift for myself, I went and saw it.
Great choice. And then they did Split. Split was also really good. Split came at things from a different perspective. I was impressed.
Yeah, I felt like M. Night Shyamalan sort of
Shamalama Ding Dong.
has kind of gone a bit down the road towards regaining some of his lost reputation, shall we say.
Since the Sixth Sense. Sense of, let's see here. What was the one that I hated so much? Town? Was that what it was called?
Well-
The
Town?
Village?
The Village, thanks. The Village.
I was actually okay with The Village, mostly, but The Last Airbender is the is the
Blech.
black mark upon his name that can probably
Yeah,
never be redeemed.
I mean, he might be able to redeem himself, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm gonna forgive and forget Airbender.
Right. And I
Same.
mean, the happening. Oh man. Just
Wasn't that about trees that make people kill themselves?
yes, it was like plants releasing something in the air that would make any nearby humans immediately kill themselves.
And then Mark Wahlberg standing there going, what?
What?
Huh?
No.
What's going on?
And I mean, Mark Wahlberg, his affect in the whole movie was just so weird. I mean,
Yeah.
really,
was.
truly weird. And I feel bad for Mark Wahlberg because I don't think he's that bad of an actor. I think it
No,
was just
he's
kind
a
of the whole
pretty damn good
project
actor.
was just. I mean, I love John Leguizamo, but I really couldn't. Like his character again just seemed really weird to
They
me.
were really oddly written, and then I don't know what they did with that movie. But you're right. All those actors in separate movies have done very well. Mark Wahlberg, what was the movie I saw him in? The Fighter or something like that, where his brother's a famous boxer. Yeah, that was a pretty damn good movie. Yeah, anyhow, Babadook, yeah, dark stuff.
But and so
Right.
yeah, so it's not. I guess I was really glad that they didn't go with the let's rewrite all the previous scenes and show that she was crazy and imagining this stuff, you know. That
Yeah,
Right.
thank God for that. They embraced the fact that it was going to be alternative alternative facts
right.
weren't going to come into play.
And so I guess, you know, to look for the mental illness thing, then you have to do it in the same way that you would analyze literary fiction in English class. You know, you're looking
Yes.
for the themes and the way that the story is told, not what is literally true. And I typically don't do that with movies, and that's part of why I didn't catch it the first time around.
I see. That makes perfect sense then. I usually come from everything from an emotional standpoint and can tell those things very quickly, but everybody thinks different.
The other thing is that her experience of mental illness is completely different from mine. From my point of view, I've suffered from depression and anxiety since I was a teenager for no goddamn reason. I don't have a bad life. I don't have any major traumas in my past. I am middle class. I've never really wanted for anything. And the only shitty thing that's ever happened to me in my life is getting this disease and not being able to figure out how to cure it. And so, for me, when I see people who are suffering in really shitty situations that they've just been dealt a bad hand by life and they can't get out of it, then to me, that doesn't make me think mental illness. It makes me think reasonable reaction to a really shitty life.
Yeah,
I
no
think there are
kidding,
different
right?
degrees of it because I know when I first heard about this movie, I was actually going through a really nasty bit of depression. And I know there are some things where, you said there's sometimes get a really bad hand and they're reacting to it. And then there versus, for some people, it's neurochemical. And for me, it's been a bit of both because I got diagnosed pretty recently with depression, but talking about my symptoms started showing up as far back as elementary school. It just I never got properly diagnosed as a kid, so it just went completely untreated. But then I also had an abusive step parent, so this watching her break down, and we see things like the cycle of abuse that hit a lot of very personal notes for me.
Yeah, I
Right.
could see that.
Yeah,
The
so
movie expanded on things like
To
that
expand
very
upon that a
well.
little bit, like the cycle of abuse is essentially, someone kind of slowly starts. If they get worse and worse when they're being abusive to somebody until they kind of hit a peak, and
Yeah.
then after they hit that peak, they realize how far they've gone, and then they kind of dial it back and they try to redeem themselves a little bit. So you see with the mother, she gets kind of rougher and rougher with the kid until eventually she yells at him and tells him to go eat shit, and then she comes back and says, oh no, I'm so sorry. That wasn't me. Hey, let's have ice cream for dinner. How does that sound?
Yeah. They
And
expand on that very well and bring it into light.
right, and so yeah, my stepdad was really abusive to me, and except for him, it was less that he was trying to be nice to me for the sake of being nice to me, and more he made a really big show of being nice to me when other people were around, so that nobody believed me when I said he was really nasty. They all just assumed I was just a kid with some issues, which I was to some degree or another, but they were just when anyone would confront him about it, there was a lot of, oh no, the kid's just making it up. See how nice I am. And because he was able to keep that act up for about a decade, nobody really realized it until it was too late.
That's unfortunate. It's hard to. It just fucking. God, that stuff pisses me off. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm a hyper manipulative and abusive adult. Everybody likes me because I'm really good at portraying myself as good in front of other people, but in all reality, I'm a piece of shit. Nobody takes the time to try to read somebody's face or emotions or the way they're acting to actually figure out what's going on behind the mask. Because the mask can be fucking cracked if you learn how to read it. Micro expressions are a thing. Go watch a show called Lie to Me. Figure out and learn defense mechanisms against that shit.
but
Yeah.
I mean,
I hope it doesn't seem like I'm.
it's
Go ahead.
horrible what happened to you. Though I think in the movie they did a pretty good job of portraying her in a sympathetic manner. That
Mhm.
obviously she does things that go over the line. Though at that point in the movie world she's been possessed by the monster. So
She's a little bit overtaken by her mental illness.
right. And
And even
so
more of it, I think at the end of the movie, when they show her feeding it and trying to keep it at bay, it shows that it's never truly gone. It's always there inside you.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Evidently, a lot of people didn't get the ending, and I got it straight away. In that mental illness. I used to think I would grow out of it, but then the more I learn about it, the more I realize you can't. It's not just a thing you kind of just grow out of or overcome. It's more of there's certain cycles to it, and you just kind of have to learn how to manage it and live with it and acknowledge it, and only then can you start to actually treat it and then just kind of integrate it with everything else you have going on.
and I
Yeah.
really liked how they had the climax and where they think they like she thinks at least that she's defeated it. And um then it's a little bit later that they're like, "Oh, you can't get rid of the Babadook, it's still there." And I think that's really true to life. A lot of people feel like, they have some kind of crisis, some kind of boiling over point. And then after that, they feel better and they think, okay, I'm cured now. But
No.
that's not the case. It just starts building up again.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
attest to that because I had something, without going into too much detail, I had something kind of similar to that in early 2016, where I kind of came really close to one of those nasty points, and then I was able to pull myself back, and I felt a lot better overall. And I think, big picture, I've definitely gotten better since that point, but there's never a point where you have essentially vanquished your issues for good, especially if it's a chemical neural disorder, something like depression. That's something that's going to stick with you. You can learn tools to manage it. You do have to kind of feed it, and you do kind of have to have days where you just ride it out. It can be dealt with, but it's never completely gone. And they even start setting that up with the lines in the Babadook book itself, where I think,
Right.
let me see if I can find the actual line. The more you deny me, the stronger I get. You start to change when I get in. The Babadook growing right under your skin. Let's see.
Yeah, and you know, the very beginning, if it's in a word or in a look, you can't get rid of the Babadook.
You can't get rid of the Babadook.
And there's a part where she's possessed by the Babadook, and the son says, "You're not my mom anymore," or something like that. "You're not my mom."
Or no, this bit broke my heart. Is she says, I think it was like, I know you can't love me. The Babadook won't let you.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was pretty heartbreaking.
Where
Hmm.
sometimes it's much harder to make these connections and necessarily express things correctly when you are going through either depression or grief.
And I guess that was another thing that made it difficult for me to see the connection the first time around, because my experience with mental illness has never really involved anger. Um, I've never really been someone who lashes out at people, and the way that I've kind of gotten through things is the one thing that I had left to hang on to was my connections with others, and that's never really been a difficulty for me. So um, that just because my experience of it is so completely opposite in so many ways to her experience of it in the movie, that's why it made it hard for me to connect with that aspect of it, I think.
I see. That's the beauty of movies. You get to see things from a different perspective that you would never think of yourself necessarily.
Yeah, it's occurring to me because normally I don't like when films try to necessarily like split metaphors or mix messages, like they try and make it be about multiple things with the same metaphor. But for this, it works for both grief and depression because a lot of times the two, like I was saying, the two can go together. And you might have some degree of depression or another, but then it's under control, and then you might have a sort of trauma happen, and that can trigger a whole mess of other really toxic behavior. You see her, she starts skipping work, she starts becoming distant from her son. She won't even put on pajamas. She'll just get in her clothes, spend the entire day in bed. Or even she's just fully clothed, gets in the bathtub, and just sits curled up in the bathtub, just because that's the only thing that seems to make sense to her at the time.
And then family wasn't supportive at all in that entire situation in the film. I mean,
No,
you
they
have her
weren't.
sister saying, "I don't even want to come and spend any time with you because I hate your kid."
Mm-hmm.
Literally says that. And there's a lot of people out there who are very harsh like that and very upright, very, I don't want to say it, but hoity toity.
Mm-hmm.
And they've never experienced what it feels like to have something terrible like that happen in their lives. So I don't necessarily think that they are wrong in saying something like that. They're certainly entitled to their opinion to say, "Hey, I don't like you. I don't want to spend any time with you because you've got your problems. You're being toxic." But they don't empathize. They don't understand and try to reach out and help because they've never been through something like that before, and they're worried that they're going to get drugged down because of it. And it's sad to say that that makes sense in a way, but it does. So I didn't hate her character for saying that, but you'd hope that somebody would be a little bit more empathetic, especially towards family.
One of the scenes that really got me is when it's the main character. Let me double check her name, because I'm blanking on her name.
I believe it's
Where
Oh, I
she's
Amelia.
remember no names.
Amelia, that was it. She's at she's with the sister who's the primary family who's not being supportive, and they're at a party, and the sister has all of her friends over, and their ideas of condolences are like, why like let's just like go to the gym or volunteer. That makes things better. Where it's they mean well, but they're clearly not grasping the entirety of the situation, and they're really just
No.
coming off as hella condescending.
Yes.
Yeah, and
And
that's
that happens a lot.
yeah, it's so true to life. I mean, that definitely that whole scene really hit home for me. Um, as far as that goes, because I mean, I don't know how many people I've had over the years say, "Oh, you just need to try this kind of exercise or this kind of herbal supplement or
Uh-huh.
whatever."
Just go do yoga.
Go do
Watch the
some.
sun
Go do a
while you
little.
watch a sunrise. You can't
Why
feel
don't you
bad
go do a
then.
little bit of prancercising outside in the hilltops? That'll get it for you.
Yeah.
No, I think that the only true way to get over mental illness in any case is either A, if it is a chemical imbalance, you need something to balance that out. Either it be natural horticultural remedies or doctoral remedies. But the other alternative, if it isn't a chemical imbalance, paraphrasing, and I'm just spitting off my own belief here, is through conversation and introspective thought. And you really have to come from a place where you're analyzing yourself and how you approach things, as well as talking to other people, because other people are conduits and will help you learn more about yourself than you could by yourself.
I think that there's no one solution with a lot of this. And once again, none of us here are doctors. Two of us here are people with with experience dealing with it to different degrees. But if you feel like you're going through any of this, I can't stress enough. There's no uh, there's a stigma, but don't ever feel bad reaching out to family members. Sometimes they might be dismissive, but keep trying. If one family member doesn't work out, then I'm sure then keep looking for people. But I have to say, there's no one size fits all. For me personally, I do take antidepressants, and I have learned how to deal with some stuff internally, and I've learned how to reach out to people as kind of a balance of all three. That I've learned really helps to keep me in check, because I know there are some times where reaching like I need people, and there are other times where I kind of know that I just need to lock up for a little while and not deal with people, because my family, hats off to them. When my depression was at its absolute worst, they did try to be supportive, and they tried to include me in things, but they didn't quite understand that at the point I was at, it was just more of a stressor than anything else.
Yeah,
So
and
if you do have someone who might be going through that, try not to, you could feel like nudging them is good, and it can be. Just be careful not to push or pull them too far, because you may not realize it, but you might be doing more harm than good. So definitely listen to what they are telling you.
yeah, for sure. And like for someone like me who would be classified as treatment resistant, because I've been through a lot of different treatments, and in fact, the most recent doctor that I talked to said that he was kind of surprised by how well I seem to know myself and the amount of introspection that I have. It's just that I'm at a point where I need a medication or something to change that will give me a boost, to start doing the things that will make me feel better. And that it's just my chemistry right now that's preventing me from doing those things. And so I need to find a treatment that's different. The thing is that if you try a medication and that medication doesn't work, then the next medication you try is actually less likely to work than the previous one was. And that continues as you try more and more medications. Um, and so I've tried at least 15 different medications over the years in various different combinations and dosages. Um, I've had electroshock therapy, which was fun. um, talk therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, and none of it has really made a significant difference in my life. So I that it's great that these things work for other people, and I encourage people to try it if they're having problems. You know, you need to go to a doctor, you need to reach out to people, you need to try and get better. But just realize that there are people out there that the current treatments just don't work for them, and you need to like be patient with those of us who are just waiting for the right treatment to be created so that we can finally find a cure that works for us.
Yeah, the movie itself actually kind of addresses this because the mother Amelia, she has her depression, her issues, but the son himself, Samuel, seems to also be like having some seems to be dealing with his own issues, and the mom tries to just throw drugs at it, and it doesn't work. And you see the film kind of taking a stance of drugs aren't necessarily bad, but just trying to throw meds at the problem is not a solution necessarily.
I concur.
Yeah, and I like how I think the real turning point in their battle against the Babadook is when the neighbor lady with Parkinson's comes over and she says, I know it's late, but I was worried about you guys, and I just wanted you to know that I'd do anything for you guys. I really love you, you know. And that seems to like turn the tide of their battle against the monster to me. Like that's the triggering point. And so
I'm really
Yeah.
oh go ahead.
I mean, I just really liked that it's, they were that genuine connection is really what helps a lot of times helps people get through these things. And it can come from an unexpected place. Like people you didn't expect were that close to you necessarily, actually might think much more highly of you than you realize.
Yeah, definitely reach out, and this idea that sometimes when you're in a very you can feel very isolated, and it can make everything seem more exaggerated and seem really dark, and sometimes that one extra person uh, kind of reaching out can sort of break that a little bit and help pull you out of it. I feel like I'm phrasing this wrong. When you feel really isolated and then these situations feel very self-contained, someone actually reaching out can definitely go a long way in sort of pulling you out of that cycle.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I am glad you brought up the neighbor because when rewatching the film, I made note that they point out that she has Parkinson's, and and she talks about how, oh, it's not a big deal. The little kid can bring it up. I don't mind, and it's just something I deal with. And they draw this parallel between a more visible ailment versus the less visible ailment of something like grief or depression.
Yeah, and I also really liked that they had an actress who really does have Parkinson's play that part.
Yeah, it made it a lot more authentic for sure.
And speaking of actresses, holy crap, Essie Davis, the woman the actress who played the mother, she was amazing.
Yes, she played a hot mess like I haven't seen most people be able to play a hot mess. I mean, when I think hot mess, I think that.
Yeah.
I was very impressed with, like I said her earlier, her characterization was very thorough. I think she dug into the role pretty well. Her facial recognition of like emotions could use a little bit more work, but she'll get better at that over time for sure. I can see that. The child that they cast as well for the son did a great job at being a kid. I mean,
Yeah,
fuck.
this is one of the best written kids in any movie I've ever seen because a lot of movies don't seem to get kids, and this movie just nailed it. Where he's energetic, he needs attention, and then a lot of kids will find a subject, and in this kid's case, it's magic and monsters, where they'll kind of zoom in and fixate on it, and then it's super super important to them. and it's really important that it's important to the other people around them.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see him do that. I watching him act and the way he was doing things and the way he was talking, I feel like he wasn't scripted necessarily as much as he was giving an idea and said, "Okay, go, run with the idea, do whatever you want," and he did that. Like it's so authentic that it's cool. Yeah, you don't see it very often. You see Mowgli in the fucking new Jungle Book movie, and he's just strictly like written like a fucking adult. And you see other characters. I mean, I haven't seen a kid that I liked in a movie since Home Alone.
Well, yeah, and I think too that you know, I sorry, I just forgot what I was gonna say.
It's all right. Well, I know with Me the Kid was great in that they make it really apparent that he doesn't know how to handle things because he is a kid, because he never knew his dad, and when it's just him and his mom's clearly not okay, he's not getting the coping mechanisms that he needs to learn how to process things correctly. So he's upset, he gets frustrated, and you see him even like he lashes out. He pushes his cousin out of a treehouse.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And
I
you,
remembered what I was going to say. I was also gratified that he wasn't just another creepy kid. Like there's this whole, again, like a whole slew of movies made after 2000 where there's a creepy kid in the movie and that's the thing. Like Aiden from The Ring, and I'm trying to think of other examples, but there definitely are plenty of them.
yeah, I agree there. And it was, I'm just happy to see that that didn't happen in this film.
What was great was the way they wrote these shifting dynamics between the characters, because in the very beginning of the film, you see Samuel has he very clearly has some issues. He's disruptive. He has this fixation on monsters and violence, and what's actually really clever is they see him making like makeshift weapons, and he has outbursts, and he seems very unbalanced, and the mom is just seems really really put upon, trying to she's trying really hard to love her kid, but at the same time he is very hard on her, and it's a lot for her to handle. And then so we tend to sympathize more with the mother, and then as the Babadook possession / mental illness slowly begins to overtake the mother, and you see there's this kid who doesn't know what's going on, trapped in this house with someone who he loves, but doesn't really. But he gets slowly more and more terrified about what's happening to her, and so our sympathies slowly start to swing more towards the kid and away from the mom. Never completely away from the mom, because we always feel for her to some degree or another. But it's interesting to watch that sort of balance shift as the movie goes on.
I'll agree with that. And I also like to think that at the beginning of the movie, the child is very infantile. He's smart. You can see that, obviously. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to create the devices and the weapons that he's been
I might
creating.
not be able to rig some of that stuff up right now. Like he makes a like a catapult. Like he rigs
Yes,
up a
and
tiny,
he makes a crossbow.
he makes a fucking handheld crossbow that shoots
Yeah.
darts.
It looks like it's made
Yeah.
out of a picture frame or something.
It looks like a slab of wood, and then it's got like a metal bar to act as the bow, and then something like another drawstring.
Hella
But
impressive.
at the same time, as clever as these things are, they very much seem like they come from the mind of a kid, rather than something super brutal. It's, well, I'm gonna make a little backpack that shoots a baseball at it, or I'm gonna make a little thing that can shoot darts.
Yeah, it reminded me
Yeah.
a little bit of the inventor kid from the Goonies.
Yeah, a little
Oh,
bit.
yeah, I could see that. Or the Rector Set kid from the Sandlot, Smalls.
Yeah.
But not as stable. However, the point I was trying to make was he seems very young in this film at the very beginning. He doesn't know how to cope with any of his problems. And where he truly shines is when he sees his mother having issues. Yes, he's scared. Yes, he doesn't know what to do necessarily, but he's trying his best to help. Otherwise, he wouldn't go down there and comfort his mother when she's absolutely losing it, even when she starts strangling him near the end of the film, when the Babadook is possessing her over and over. he's trying to do the right thing, and that's what brings out the good side of her. So, very adult in that sort of aspect.
Yeah.
I also really feel bad for the kid because they don't outright say it, but it's kind of implied that she, or no, they do actually outright say it, that she kind of, she, as much as she loves him for because he's her son, she kind of hates him because she relates him to the night her husband died. And so it's, she lost the man she loved, and now she's stuck with this problem. And as much as she tries to love him, he is, he's a kid who has, they don't specify really, but he does have some sort of special needs that she needs to take care of. And there is very much a growing resentment that she has trouble admitting until the possession really takes hold, which is, I wish it was you who would have died.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I feel like a lot of, these are things that play around inside your head, in the back of your mind, in the back of my mind too. I think everybody thinks very dark things like that, and a lot of the times we don't express them. And it was interesting to see a movie that pulled apart that sort of area of the psyche and made it real in a way. And as sad as it is to say, we all think terrible things like that. It's how we act and what we do with it is what makes the biggest difference.
And I think
Yeah.
also acknowledging that those feelings are real, but they don't have to control you. Like it's okay to think really dark things and to have really dark feelings.
Yeah.
And you can't really change those feelings. You have to acknowledge that they're there, but then also figure out a way to move past them.
Mm-hmm. I have a friend who struggles a lot with feelings like that, and I really am trying very hard to get it across to him that it's okay to think these things. It's your mind palace. You can do whatever you want in there. You can be the worst person in the world. But as soon as you start beating yourself up for it in real life, things get real. Don't do that.
And
Learn
then
how to manage it.
that goes back to the core, I guess, moral of the film, in that, the only way she can deal with the Babadook is by calling him out and then literally feeding it.
Mm-hmm. Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally feeding it.
Feed the beast. Don't. A lot of people, I feel like, do this thing where they think, I'm going to completely change. I'm going to stop being this person and be the person that I want to be. And as soon as somebody starts doing that, things go to shit. And then they fall back into the way that they used to be. And it's this constant swinging of, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. It always brings me back to Far Cry 3. Do you know what the definition of insanity is? It's doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. But in all reality, you have to come from a different sort of perspective and analyze these things. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to get over them. You can't full swing go, I'm going to stop, and then stop. You have to discipline yourself. Some people, I don't know, I've seen a couple people who can, like, quit smoking cold turkey and stuff. It's impressive as hell. Like, something like that is very difficult to do. But a lot of people struggle with constantly going back to the same vices.
Yeah, I sort of took the ending. I mean, when I was watching it the second time, I took the ending as sort of a metaphor for self-care. That you have to take the time out to acknowledge that the bad things are still there, but it's okay. They're contained. You just need to keep calm, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And take
Fun conversations, right?
yeah, and take time for yourself to gauge that. Take time for yourself to check on how the Babadook is doing. Is it getting out of hand, or is it kind of
Mhm.
just hanging out down there and not doing anything?
Because they show that it does still have some influence, because you see it's got some, it just grabs her and she gets kind of lifted off and she goes, "Ugh," and she's able to comment, to, kind of keep everything back under control, and then it just, you see it like grab the worms and just drag them back into the shadows.
Yeah, yeah. And so that whole thing really struck home for me as a direct reference to self-care, like making almost like, making an offering to the bad things. And people can do that in a lot of different ways.
I think it's figuring out the right way to do it is what's necessary. Like everybody has different things, right? One of my things is impulse control. And so I found growing up that I need to stop spending so much money on very useless things. So now I buy cheap useless things occasionally, not as frequently, and try to savor them more. So there's ways to get around everything. It's just tricking your mind.
Yeah. And so oh, and I read an interview, I think that Nomad sent me with the director, and how um the ending didn't test well with some audiences, and I think they were trying to convince her to change it or something, and she said, like, no, this movie isn't getting released if I have to change the ending. And I'm really, really glad that she did that.
Absolutely, because the whole thing falls apart without this ending. And this movie's been a passion project for this director for years. I dug up in another interview, I think I sent it to you, that even as I believe it was back in 2005, she released a short film, a short black and white short film just called The Monster. And it's essentially, it plays out like a 10-minute pilot for this movie where you have this little kid, he's running around going like, I'm gonna fight the monsters, and there's this stuffed animal that basically just looks like a shaggy thing with a bird face. And then when you see this thing come to life, it actually looks a lot like the Babadook, where it's essentially just shaggy and it's got the same claws, which those creepy glove claws that the Babadook had in the film.
Gotta love
So
Nightmare
eventually,
on Elm Street.
yeah, until this monster kind of corners the kid, and the mom has to go in, and she just draws a line and goes, "No, not in my house, not without my permission. You go back where you came from, and don't you dare come back out without my say so." And she just overpowers this thing and forces it back into the closet. And then one of the last shots of the short film is she pours a glass of milk and leaves it out by this closet door, and then you just see the creepy hand just slowly reach out and then snatch the milk and grab it back in, and that's where they hard cut and end the film, the short film.
Yeah, it's worth a watch. I just before the show I ended up looking it up. You can actually find it on Vimeo.
I actually had it on YouTube.
Oh, really? Yeah. And it's only
Yeah, you know
10
what? I'll link it
minutes,
in the
so
show notes.
yeah, that's a good idea.
So, Babadook's on Netflix. It comes in at a lean 90 minutes. Excuse me. It comes in as a pretty lean 90 minutes. But if you don't have Netflix, or you can't quite squeeze that into your schedule, definitely, I'll leave it in the show notes. Go look up this short film.
I agree.
And then, if you like the short film, I would absolutely recommend going in and looking up Babadook proper. Well, can we take a note though, just to talk about how amazing they did on such a really low budget?
How low was the
Yeah.
budget?
Let me double check the IMDb, because it's as someone who's been watching a lot of movies, I can kind of see where they would have to make compromises as far as things like effect. Oh, here we go. Budget was an estimated 2 million. Opening weekend was 30,000, and then the gross was 924,000, just USA. Although no, I'm sorry. Let me go grab some water. You guys keep talking. I'm gonna go get some water real quick because I got something in my throat.
Aw.
Get the dick out of your throat, Sam.
Yeah, go. I'll put a link in the Skype because we're doing Skype. I'm just gonna keep pushing on because I'm a fucking pro. I'm just gonna leave a link to the Skype, and then one of you guys can go read these out while I go clear out my throat real quick.
All right, I'll pop this up and then talk a little bit about the specifics here.
Okay.
La, 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 la.
Yeah, I know that.
All right.
I know that it was
So,
like it was sort of a sleeper hit to some extent. That was very well. I remember it being pretty well received.
Yeah. There's a lot of campiness to stuff like. Oh God, that's great. Um. So opening weekend was October 20. Jesus Christ, Sam. Opening weekend was October 26, 2014. That grossed about $560,000. And then after that, based on other barometers, by the 8th of February of 2015, it's showing as having grossed $924,000. So
Is that worldwide or
in the USA only.
okay? I wonder if they.
Australia had 268,000. USA again had 900,000, and there's some weekend grosses after that as well. It looks like it. Just taking a quick glance at it, it looks like it recouped its losses and probably profited by about $800,000.
Well, that's good.
So it's not terrible, but then you think about taxes, and it's not great.
Yeah, I hate to think that you know that they didn't. I, I would hate to think that they really lost money on it.
I would too. It would be a shame. But if they broke even, I'd say this is a good break even film. Um, Thoroughly enjoyable piece. I liked it a lot.
Uh,
But like I said, you can tell it's on a budget. You can tell the acting could just be slightly better, from my humble opinion. And
There we go. I'm back.
as far as fuck off, as far as set design and like makeup goes, I think this movie is a solid A plus. And Sam, we could hear every single hack that you were doing.
What, from the other room?
Yeah.
Damn. This mic is better than I thought it was.
Yeah, you don't need to get a new one.
Fuck, do I need to go? Fuck, am I gonna have to edit this back out?
No.
All my
Yeah.
weird hacks.
Dude, you're
No.
gonna have to edit out your hacks. You're gonna have to edit out every single cough I've been doing because I've been
No,
coughing a lot
don't-
too. So
Don't bother. Just leave it all in.
no, you
Uh,
fucking edit that shit. Good. I'm a.
I'll make a
oh my
note
God.
of where it is.
I'm rubbing my facial hair all over my microphone
Though,
right
I
now,
mean,
so you can make an
then
ASMR
we won't
video if you
know
want.
why Armacorth was saying why what Armacorth was reacting to without the
God
cough
damn it.
still in. Because we were laughing
Right
at
now-
Fuck. See, like,
Right
this
now
was gonna be
I'm-
like a super important episode to me because I really love this film, and then it's just, oh hey, this is also the episode where I have to excuse myself for a coughing fit that everybody can totally hear.
Mm-hmm.
you.
We're professionals here. Hey, don't worry.
It's
I am
okay.
currently rubbing my facial hair all over my microphone, so you can make an ASMR video
Awesome.
out of it. If you
Ah,
Awesome.
god damn it. Well, we started doing separate tracks now, so I can isolate that shit.
want.
Back to the movie, because I really like this movie. Did you guys pick up on the color balance yet?
It seemed a lot more. All right. A lot of blues, a lot of hues of gray, a lot of hues of black. Things that lend towards depression. How about them fucking apples? And then during the points where there's like less of a relapse, more understanding, those breakthrough periods, brighter. You can see more greens. You see
Less
more
saturated.
blues, like happier colors. But when it comes down to the fear and it comes down to the depression, lots of blues, lots of like faded whites and grays.
Yeah, it's this idea that, when you do have depression, it sort of covers everything. And so it's this definitely this almost like a fog that's hanging over the whole film.
I agree it's a good use of color, though I think so many films these days that aren't doing that for any specific purpose just have the whole color palette of their films be sort of bluish.
Oh, the blue-orange color palette thing?
Yeah, and so to some extent I think what they did gets lost in the noise of so many other films just by default being blue, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I
I
know
like
there's a lot of
the-
people getting pissy about stuff like Transformers going blue and orange, and that you want to have contrast, and so you have like a night or a sky, and then you tint that bluer, and then you make the people just this a bit more yellow orange because that's to make the skin tones pop more because those are on opposite ends of the color wheel.
Yeah,
Huh.
but I mean, like, if you, like, say, if you compare screenshots from the original movie of something that was from before digital color correction, and then a remake of it after the age of digital color correction, and it just every single time it looks so freaking blue, dark and blue. And so yeah, just I think some of what they did in the Babadook gets lost because so many films are going in that direction.
And you
Yeah,
know
I
what
can
I
see
can
that.
compare that to? I can compare that to the difference between listening to music on vinyl and listening to music on compact disc or MP3.
Ha.
Yeah. One thing I
Lot
really
of
loved about the movie too, and this works with a lower budget, is they did the Jaws thing where they kind of kept the monster hidden throughout the film. They didn't actually show it to you until pretty much the end, and there's a couple of other smaller bits where you actually physically see the monster.
Yeah, there was a very creepy section in the middle of the movie, I thought, where the mother is lying on her bed and she hears the door open. She thinks it's the dog. So she relaxes and goes, like, leans back down in her bed and then sees something dark flicker up through the door and across the ceiling. So she covers herself with the blanket and is shivering under there. And you hear this creepy ass fucking voice say something about a Babadook or some old horse shit like that. Hey, it's a spicy Babadook. And then she like leans her head back out of the covers, and there it fucking is on the ceiling, kind of like twitching, and then jumps down her throat. And has a very good, has a very sort of conjuring scene like that.
And it's
And
really creepy, and they do a lot of real, and it's a great way of using some really basic tricks to do some really effective shots, because it's very just altering perspective and then like speeding up and slowing down footage.
there's a lot of speeding up
Yeah.
and slowing down footage in this movie. I noticed a very large like amount of that when the Babadook like speeds down to the basement and she's running down the staircase to catch it and like close the door behind it. You can see she's sped up. So there's a couple of points where it gets sloppy about it, but it
Mhm.
doesn't detract from the movie. It's there.
I really liked what they did with her sleep throughout the film. That because that's a battle that I have myself, and it was something that again helped me relate to her. And I liked what they did with the camera work in explaining some of that, like the way that she would be sort of floating out of her body, and then they would have her like float back down to the bed and wake up. Um,
Right, and they'll even just do really subtle things like they'll just change the lighting outside the window, and they'll kind of alter the speed of the footage, and you'll just see like the dark kind of come back to light, or the light go to dark, and it's just the light hitting her face.
yeah. Or that she, like the when she starts getting really lethargic, the way that they do of just she, you see what she's looking at, and then they do like a time lapse thing, and all of a sudden it's 10 a.m. and she's late.
Right.
And I think
One of my
that's.
favorite bits in this film. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just thought that was a good way to do it, to sort of convey that helplessness, I suppose.
I love there's kind of a pseudo dream sequence in the film where she's watching a TV movie, and then it shows up like a black and white film, and it goes all the way back as a shout out to the work of, I know I pulled this up, to some very old school French films, which go back to like the
Silent
early
movie.
1900s silent films. I know, I'm sorry, I'm like silent films from stuff like the early like 1900s, and specifically what looks like George, I'm not sure if I'm gonna get this right because it's French, Millier,
Possibly.
where it's very clearly where it's all done in black and white. And look up a film called A Trip to the Moon. And if you watch Babadook and then you watch A Trip to the Moon, or vice versa, the way that they edit the effects are almost identical, or at least they trick it, because a lot of this stuff was practical effects done by literal magicians in the very early days of film,
Right. Yeah.
where it's stuff like they'll do things like jump cuts, or they'll physically alter the film, and it's some really crazy stuff. So absolutely go check this out just to see the stuff they did completely analog.
have either of you seen Hugo?
Yes.
Are
Love that
they
movie.
referencing the same person there that they
Yes, I
reference
believe
in
they are
Hugo?
referencing the
Okay.
same person.
That was one of the first movies I saw in 4K. Oh man.
That you saw in what?
4K.
Ah.
4K definition, Hugo in 4K. Tits.
Yeah,
But
I just fucking love the Babadook's design because it's super simple. It's just a guy in like white grease paint, a top hat, a long coat, and some long, creepy gloves.
that's all
And
you need,
that's
dude.
it. And
That's all you need.
they keep it throughout the film where they'll see like there's a coat rack where it's just there's just a coat, a hat, and then these long gloves. And even when she runs to the police station, because she does try to call the police at one point, that she thinks someone's harassing her family by this book when this book keeps showing up again and again. And she's looking past this cop and she sees the coat rack and she sees there's this top hat and this coat and these creepy ass gloves just hanging on there, and it just causes her to freak out and run away.
Yeah.
And all the cops are standing there going, WTF, mate.
Because it's Australian.
Oh, right.
That's right.
Yeah, the launches and missiles.
Same as ads.
Yes, that thing.
Well, I thought the movie was a solid view overall, and the art direction as well as the costuming were top key factors for me.
Yeah, though
The
if
video editing, the filmography, and a little bit of the acting could have been done a little bit better, but I think the writing and the portrayal of depression and mental health played out really well.
yeah, I think if you go into it thinking that you want something comparable to a high budget scare fest, that's not what you're gonna get, and you might be really
No,
disappointed.
this is not The Conjuring.
But if you're looking for something that has some deeper meaning, but is still very creepy, this is gonna be the one you want to watch.
Agreed.
Yeah, I wish this film had been around when I was younger to kind of introduce me to some of these ideas. I absolutely love this movie. I feel like I could probably keep talking about this movie all night, and there's gonna be stuff as soon as I stop recording. All these points I wish I had brought up, but we probably do have to wrap it up at some point.
Yeah, I was leaning towards wrapping up shortly. That's why I gave my synopsis of the
Yeah.
thoughts of the film.
Yeah,
'Cause I got a
just
couple
go,
other
just go
things.
watch this movie. Everybody, just go watch this movie.
And
Yeah, check it out.
yeah, seriously do. And then next week we can give you something a little bit lighter to work with.
Hopefully,
We can, or we can give everybody something completely abysmal and terrifying like The Conjuring. Which is, oh, by the way, The Conjuring's a great film if you haven't seen it.
It's good though. I have mixed feelings about Ed and Lorraine Warren for sure.
Oh, are you talking about like the real life situation of them?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, for certain. That entire thing's dramatized and complete horse malarkey, in my humble opinion. But as far as the film goes, it defies conventions of other horror movies I've seen. As soon as you think you understand what's gonna come next, it doesn't. Like, it builds up suspense, and you're like, "Where's the jump scare gonna be?" And then guess what? Jump scare's not fucking there. But like 2 hours later in the film, there's a part where everybody's just chilling and everything in the entire house falls off the fucking walls, and it's the scariest goddamn thing because it happens for no apparent reason whatsoever.
Yep. So, Babadook, not The Conjuring.
Yeah.
It's
Not
about
The
as
Conjuring.
it's not The Conjuring. It's not a creature feature. Just
No.
know what you're getting into before you watch the movie, and you may not like it, but it's certainly an important thing for you to watch, especially if you feel like you're going through some sort of depression, some sort of grief, or somebody you know is. Like, if you're going through depression and you have a friend or family member who just does not fucking get it, sit them down and go and make them watch the Babadook and go, this is what it's like.
This is it.
Well,
Yes.
for some
it was
people, this is what it's like.
Yes,
Yeah.
not everybody.
Some people's depression or mental health is just like the human centipede. It just depends on your situation.
Wait,
Oh,
how?
fuck. Are we doing this Human
What?
Centipede next week? Will that be our less
I don't-
depressing movie?
I don't understand. How is it? How? What? How does the human centipede depend on your situation?
Well, for instance, if you hate your life at work and you get shit on there consistently, and then you go home and you hate your home life and you get shit on there consistently too, wouldn't you think that's a little bit like the human centipede? At least being in the middle of it.
Okay, I guess. Yeah, if you were the last guy on that centipede, that'd probably be the worst position, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not here to split hairs.
That's exactly what you do. That is exactly why you're here. You love that. It's hair splitting and dick jokes. That is your spot on the team dynamic.
Yeah, haven't you figured that out by now? It's pretty straightforward. I am the catalyst. Is that a good word for it?
I guess
'Cause
so.
usually my opinions differ, and that's because the hipster in me brings it out.
Ah,
And yeah,
hipster. Do you have your
I have my
lumber-
vinyl downstairs. I have my pedo stash. I have my
do
goddamn
you have
cardigan
your
when I want to wear it,
lumberjack
and I have
beard
my
and the
No.
flannel and the
no. But who you think I am? Some sort of fucking typical hipster? Nah, I don't want to be like one of
He's a
those guys.
hipster to other hipsters.
That's right. I have records, but I listen to I don't
The-
listen to just
the
King Crimson.
hipster among hipsters, huh?
Yeah. No, but in all reality, I just come at things from a different perspective when it comes down to films. Like top films for me are things like, looking back, I'd have to say the very first film that got to me more than anything was Last House on the Left, the original version. I hate that film. I fucking hate it. But I hate it so much that I like it because I hate it. Does that make sense?
Not
Yes.
really to me, but I'm the kind of person where my favorite movie ever is But I'm a Cheerleader. I mean, like that's it.
Do we want to? We'll do that one definitely sometimes. That's streaming anywhere.
I mean, come on, RuPaul playing a man. What is not to love? And freaking Bear from Night Court as a gay guy. I mean, obviously this is the best one, just the best one.
Then that's your sensibilities. I mean, as far as movies are concerned, I don't. All right, Last House on the Left. I love the movie because I hate it. It draws an emotion out of me that I don't usually see. That's why I like Last House on the Left. But as far as like favorite movies go, like Hot Fuzz is one of my favorite movies,
Yeah.
or the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. As far as I'm concerned, you can't even fucking touch that film. What sort of movie? What's like one of your favorite movies, Sam?
I know my all-time favorite movie has got to be Good Night and Good Luck,
Oh yeah, the
Oh,
Which-
wait a minute.
Murrow
which
movie.
that
you
the
guys
one-
probably only know about because I will nerd at you about it.
No, I only know about it because of the quote. The quote was from like a television broadcast of a news. What was the situation behind it? What was the circumstance?
McCarthyism.
All right,
Or-
so no. So I know about this shit because it's a guy named Edward R. Murrow, and I have read no fewer than 3 biographies on the man because I am a journalism nerd. No, he's a guy named Edward R. Murrow, and that was his sign-off. That was just his typical. We're done with the show
Good
for
night.
tonight.
Yeah, that's right. Good night and good luck. That's
Good night
what
and
he
good
said.
luck. And then if you guys get me start talking about Murrow, we will literally be here for another like 2 hours
Yeah,
of just
yeah.
me.
No,
That's
no.
fine.
But
Dump
as
it,
far as
just-
like as far as journalism
Yeah.
goes,
favorite movies.
if
It's
you
for me,
wanna-
it's all over the place. Like that's my favorite movie. But I also, I think one of my favorite childhood movies growing up was the animated Transformers movie. I fucking love Pacific Rim, Get Out, and the Babadook are on there. I'm really all over the place.
Mine
Same.
are
I feel
mine
it.
are fairly consistent, I think. Besides, but I'm a cheerleader. I also love Saved. And well, I'm drawing a blank beyond those two at the moment, but oh, and actually
There's-
Insidious. I love the
Oh, that's a good
Insidious
movie.
movies so much.
You know, if you like Insidious, you might like Sinister. Have you seen
Oh
that?
yeah, the first one was really good. The second one is not necessarily really worth
They made a second
Oh
one.
yeah, they did, and
Yeah.
it's okay. It's just really not nearly as good as the first one.
Yeah, Ethan Hawke is pretty bomb. Well, Sam, if you want to watch a movie that will tickle your sensibilities, I think you'd love The Best of Enemies.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
It's about Gore Vidal and what was his competitor? Do you know who Gore Vidal is?
Oh
I
yeah.
vaguely.
Uh,
He's a writer.
Yes, he was a writer, and he wrote one of the first books about a man who transitioned to a woman and then raped another man, and it's just a ridiculous like romp of a
And
book.
then
Uh,
there's one movie I think that Gore Vidal actually appeared as an actor in.
I didn't know
And
that.
it's Murder by Death, which is hilarious. It's similar sort of in tone to Clue,
Ah, I love
which is
Clue.
another one of my favorite movies. Yes.
Well, Gore Vidal and William Buckley. Buckley was a staunch right wing sort of Republican, where Gore Vidal was very liberal leftist, and I think it was CBC or I forget what television company, but one of them realized they weren't getting any viewership, and the only way they were going to do it was to get two differing opinions and throw them in a room. They hated each other and have them argue it out. And they were two of the best like debaters, and they did exactly that, and it was awesome. ABC did it. That's right.
Oh wait, no, I'm thinking of somebody totally different. Never mind.
No problem. But I stuck the link to the IMDb in the chat and Skype. I think, Sam, you would really enjoy this movie.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it. So we've gone on like 10 minutes past where we said we were gonna try to wrap up.
Yeah, I'm gonna pause my recording now. Let me rub my beard on a little more.
There we go. So we're gonna sign out then.
Yep. Good night, everybody.
Hopefully, it'll be less depressing next week.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right, bye. Do we? I mean, is Kingsman 1 on Netflix? We can just do Kingsman 1 next week and then do Kingsman 2 when that comes out.
Wait, are we stopping recording now?
I'm still recording.
Okay.
Kingsman not on Netflix because we all live apart, so it's hard for us to sit down and like it's not like one of us can have a DVD and we can all watch it together. Whenever we pick a film, it has to be something all three of us can easily access. Arma and I are like we're in the same general area, but Ivy lives all the way down in North Carolina. So it's we have to coordinate something we can all access easily. So we have to make sure it's usually streaming is the easiest because it's not like we can share a DVD. Kingsman not on Netflix, but Kubo and the Two Strings is. Fuckers. Alright, I guess I'll sign out.